Okay, snapping twig's up next. Snapping twig is another push defense technique, and this push is actually coming to the center of our body in the ideal phase. Obviously, we can work this against different pushes, different parts of the body, making adjustments, but the ideal phase is somebody coming in with their left hand to the center of our body. As the push comes in, my left leg is going to step back, absorbing the strike. My left hand is going to pin their hand, oncoming push hand, and I'm going to use my right heel palm against the elbow joint, simultaneously snapping the twig. The left leg steps back as I hit. I want to make sure that I twist the hips, rotating into the stance. I don't want to stand center line to center line of the opponent. I want to use my entire body here. So the left leg steps back, I snap the twig. The right hand comes over, very similar to what we do in triggered salute. We're going to use a frictional pulling crane's beat, raking down the bicep, catching along the elbow joint, shelving onto the elbow joint, and then pulling my cross-hand shuto strike, my outward hand sword, into the neck or the throat. Okay? So it looks like this. From here, I snap. This comes over, frictional pull the arm down, hit a forward bow, chop. Notice how my right arm went to my right hip. Now that continues in orbit. The right hand continues in orbit, forming the hammer as I shift back from my forward bow to my neutral bow, hammering the face. And then from that big circle that the hammer's making, we turn that into a small circle, pushing off of the left foot, basing with the left hand for an elbow strike to the face, cross out, step back on guard. Okay, I'll do this at one angle for you before we bring Sensei Gabe in. Left leg steps back, catch with the left hand, push. We break the arm, we take the crane's beak, frictional pull the arm down as I shift into my forward bow, chopping the neck. From the chop of the neck, this continues in orbit into a hammer strike, cross the face as I transition back to my neutral, and then elbow strike. Cross out and step back on guard. Mr. Gabe. So, snapping twig, he comes in for the push. I step back. Notice the right hand catches right there on the elbow joint. And if you see where it's catching, the heel of the palm will catch right below the elbow joint here. So it's a fitted strike. The finger should be facing towards the opponent. This is going to pin here. I'm going to hit and rotate the hips, bringing him kind of up on his heels and also canceling the whip. From here, my right hand will travel, catching onto the elbow joint, being careful not to send this arm into a negative orbit. I want to plant some weight down into his leg, so I'm going to pocket it to my right hip, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel his oncoming swing out with the chop of my left hand to the throat. From that position here, my right hand continues in motion as I hammer strike the face, push drag forward, elbow. Notice I did not straddle the paddle here. I went into the inner center line of my opponent, striking, cross out, step back on guard. Mr. Gabe, why don't you stand right off the line here. As he comes in, snap. From here, frictional pull, chop, forward bow, hammer strike, elbow strike, cross out, step back on guard. Okay, thank you, sir. So explore that. Lots of dynamic with the transitions there, okay? We have that neutral to the forward shift to the hammer strike. Really using that reverse torque to settle into the hammer. Push dragging forward, elbow, cross out, step back on guard. Snapping twig.